Hi folks, welcome back to this second session of this month. Hope everybody is doing well. So there was a little delay today, apologize for that. Actually, as you know, in USA the time changes during these times, so I have to make some adjustments during different sessions, but it's okay. So this is only for this time. I think from the next week we'll resume the original time. Okay, so this month we are covering a very important topic of workplace politics, or as we call office politics. And let me give you a quick review what we covered last time, so it would make more sense to understand what we'll be covering in today's session. Okay, so I hope you are able to see my screen. And so I'm showing you the multiple slides from my previous session just to give you a quick review. So we did a quick survey to understand what office politics is and what is your view. And we saw that as we step by step move from opinion 1, 2, and 3, many people change their position. So, which means that there was not much clarity that what level of office politics you can accept. But this is the whole purpose of this session, that to understand what politics is and how could we really live with it in a positive manner. So the most important thing we learned was that it could be good, it could be bad. So there is nothing really fixed. It all depends upon the people. How do they want to use the office politics in a good or bad manner? But the most important thing is that, let me go to the slide. What we learned that the political power, or the power to really deal with office politics or workplace politics, come from three sources. So the first source is power come from position. And that is what most of the people really believe, that whatever power they have in the work environment is because of their position. So if they are at a junior position, they are very weak, but if they move up to the higher level of hierarchy, then they will get much stronger and powerful. But that is true to some extent. But really, positional power in office politics pays the least amount of effectiveness. So there is some power which does come from position, but it is not very effective. The other sources of power which are more effective is power from relationship. So when you have relationship with powerful people or senior people or the people who really decision makers, that also gives you a lot of influential capacity to impact the workplace politics. So that's number one. And the third one, which was the most important source of power, is it comes from your own. So when you are able to establish a personal brand, for example, if you are considered a very good player, if you are considered that you are very professional, that itself gives you a lot of political power in the organization to play with it. And I also ask you to complete two assessments, one related to the positional power and one related to the relational power. So if you have done it, then you would already know some idea that where you stand and what you need to do. And if not, then you can still do it. Today's session is mainly focused on practical tips, what you should do. So the purpose of the last session was that we understood very clearly what office politics is and how could really it affect us, positive or negative. But today's session is all about what we could do about office politics. And as we understood that in every office, every organization, small or large, there is some amount of workplace politics or office politics. So the first challenge is that how do you know that there are politics in your work environment or not? As I said, that some amount is already there, but really to understand, so you already develop a guess that my workplace is highly politicized, or some would say that there is very little politics in my office or a work environment. But there are some clear signs you could see and really make an assessment about the office politics. So this is what we are going to talk about in this slide, signs of office politics. And I suggest you that as we go through the pointers, try to think of your current work environment or previous work environment, and you will be able to see the reality. So I'm talking about the concept here, but you would see the reality that how did it happen at your previous work or current work, and that would give you more clarity that how the our office politics or workplace politics may impact you. The first thing is, and this is very obvious, different rules for different people, and very common. So now I would ask you to think about your current work environment or previous, that what is happening, why there are some people who are able to pass by some of the rules, and these people at the same time are also very powerful. So management or senior management recognizes their importance, and based on their importance, based on their, it could be a good work or it could be something else, but there are people, few people, there are not many, who are given extra advantage. For example, they may come late and nobody would question. You may come, when you come late, there is a questioning process or there is an accountability process, but for them it is not. They may also do other things in the organization which some people are not authorized to do, but they are given to do. So that's first sign that there is some office politics in this environment. By the way, as we move forward in this session, feel free to keep dropping your question. Actually, I was expecting that some of you would send me in advance, but I did not receive much questions. So this is very practical topic, what we are discussing today. So I suggest that as we go through the topics, contents, drop your question in the question box and we'll pick it up from there and try to address your practical challenges. Number two, leaders setting bad example. Now this is more common in smaller organizations, or especially the organization where the owners of the business are themselves the managers. Because they are the owners, they think that they have authority or flexibility to even violate the laws. In more professional organization or international organization or more formal organization, even the CEO are very much regulated by certain policies and procedures. So but the point here is that when you see in the organization that even the leader is really not following the rules and they are behaving in certain manner, which does not really comply with the policies and the procedure of the company, then you don't get a good feeling. And that also becomes part of the, because they are going their own way. They are dealing with the people, they want to give more flexibility and authority than the other people. So these are the major cracks in the organization which gives rise to office politics or workplace politics. Now, I think in the, I mentioned in the previous session that in regions or in geographies where there are multiracial groups or ethnic groups, there is more presence of political groups or ethnic groups in the organizations. And Middle East is one of the region where there is a lot of diversity. There are people dominant in many organizations who are coming from different geographical regions, and there are not one or two, there are many. So it's very natural to expect that those people with the same background, with the same ethnicity, create some groups. And when they create groups, of course, they try to serve the purpose and interest and objective of the group first. And that also creates not a very healthy environment for the people who are not in the other groups or not in those political groups. So grouping, and this grouping is always informal. So of course, there is no formal groups for those ethnicity or those other common interests of those people, but they are informal. So they are, you could see that if you work in an organization for some time, you clearly see that which groups are more dominant, which powerful, which groups are more weak, and that is how people play with the office politics. Favoritism. This is also an example of existence of a strong office politics, and this could be for many reasons. There is liking, disliking, which is again very natural. So as we learned last time, that office politics is not unnatural, it's quite natural. It based on the people's feeling, based on the people's emotion, based on their liking and disliking. And favoritism is usually based on the liking. There is a senior manager or a director who is started to give favor to one person. Maybe two possibilities. Number one, either the senior person or the authorized person like that person very much for some reason, or there is some internal arrangement. There is some implied arrangement within the two people that you scratch my back, I will scratch your back, something like that. So the person who is getting favor, maybe they are in a position to provide favor back to that other person. But this is also common, and you can clearly identify that. Nepotism is also another form of favoritism. And usually, if you look at the policies and procedures of many companies, especially the large companies and formal companies, they don't encourage bringing employee references to bring their close relatives. Many organizations have this policy that you cannot hire two brothers or two sisters or father and son close relatives, and some organizations also have the policies even not really hiring the relatives or the people who are distantly related. And the reason is that I think those of you who attended the relationship session and the and emotional intelligence understand that with those close relations, we always have our emotions involved. I mean, no matter if my son is working in an organization, I'm also working there, or if my brother is over there and I'm also there, then there are a natural tendency to favor those people because of our deep relationship, right? So matured and professional organizations don't expect us to really not to use our emotions entirely, because it would be unnatural to expect from human to work like robots. So to resolve that issue, they create policies where it is not possible to bring close relatives, so that there is no potential of creating any favoritism or any nepotism. But if there is no policy, and you would notice in your work environment, or you could observe in other work environment, that if there are relatives, even nephew or those type of relationship, they always get some favor from the relative who has more authority in the organization. So best thing is really not to let have created those situations in any professional or formal work environment. Then there are also situations you would again, if you look back at your work environment or previous work environment, you will see that there are some employees who are there in the organization for a very long period of time, 10 years, 15 years, maybe 20 years. And although they may not be very updated with the latest technology or latest work rules, or they may not be very productive or efficiency, but somehow they have earned entitlement from the owners or from the management of the company, which means that management or senior managers or leaders themselves give some concession to those employees. And those employees also think that, well, I have been working in this organization for 15, 20 years, so I have earned that title, that get more salary, do less work, and the new comers in the organization, younger people getting less salary and being burdened with more with the work. Now, honestly, professionally, it should not happen. But again, long stay of those employees in those organizations create a relationship which make people a little bit biased in their favor. And again, as I said, that in more professional organization, it does not happen because they try to create strict policies. So usually one relationship you could find in the political organization and non-political organization do not have very clear rules and policies. That is why people could decide or devise their own rules, and that creates problem in the organization. But larger organization, especially the international organization or well-organized companies, have very clear rules, and it is the responsibility of the respective department, mainly HR in these cases, to really ensure that policies are implemented and endorsed by all the people in the company. You would also find very common examples of serious communication gaps. And if there is not enough communication in the organization, what happens? That people try to create their own news or rumors. And when rumors started to happen, then that's really create more unrest in the organization. In those organizations where you see very prevalent office politics, you will see that many times you don't hear an information which is relevant to your work from the proper channels. You heard it in the hallway, you heard it in the kitchen, you heard it someone in the parking lot, right? And you was wondering, you were upset that I should have heard this thing from my boss, but boss did not communicate to you. So these are the gap of communications which create unrest. And then again, for every move there is some purpose behind it. There are some reasons, because maybe your boss is involved in some politics and they don't want to communicate that information directly to you, but you hear it from somewhere else, and it creates more problem, because now you lose trust of your boss, because you are thinking that you should have heard it from your boss and it came from someone in the parking lot. That's not right. So if that is happening, that's another very effective reason for existence of the office politics. Now, in some organization, you would realize that all these things exist, basically, more than what I'm telling you exist, and that gives you a very negative feeling. In fact, you could call that work environment the toxic work environment. Even the thinking, the thought of really going to work in the morning is toxic. It slows you down. You lose your energy thinking of that, because when you visualize who are the people you are going to work with, it really takes out all of your energy. Such an environment, such a negative environment. And this is also a common example of high politics, because people are really burning their energy on their own vested interest, not for the benefit of the organization. Now, see yourself that where are you in this office politics? So I guess that majority of you would say that, look, I know there is a lot of office politics, but I'm not involved. I don't like it. I'm focused on my work, and that is where I want to spend my time. And majority of the people, I would say, in any typical organization fall into that category. Now, who are those people? These are hardworking, sincere employees, but they are not politically smart. They are not politically smart because they have a feeling and belief that office politics is bad, and I want to get involved about it. I don't want to be part of the rumors, right? So what happens? Politically, they become weak. And once they become politically weak, they become victims of the people who are politically smart in the organization. Understand that point, because you may be in that category. These are sincere, hardworking, good people, and they are doing good work. So when you are not politically smart and you are doing good work, what may harm you is that the other people who are playing politics, they may take advantage of your good work, and that's happened very commonly. Because for them, you are a weak person because you're not politically smart, you're not involved into it, and they can play their game very wisely, very cleverly. So just be cautious of that point. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's not also the ideal thing for you to really be in that position. And I'll explain what you could do. In many organizations, you will find even there are illegal or practices which are beyond ethics, and you would feel yourself very uncomfortable, because if your boss is telling you something to do which you think is not right, legally or morally, you are in trouble, because either you risking your job or you're risking your own ethics standards or legal boundaries. So that becomes a very conflicting and difficult situation for many employees. Lack of professionalism. Now, as I said, in some organizations, there is such a negative environment. Nobody respect each other. Nobody respect. And in many organizations, you would find that senior executives especially, they misbehave with employees, especially in the owner manager environment, where the owner of the company, they take it granted. The typical mentality of a small business owner is that all the employees are their servants, so they can deal them however they want it, right? That create a bad environment in the organization. But in also many mid-size or even larger organizations, there are few people who do not really deal professionally. They don't respect people. They misbehave people, even sometimes use abusive languages. I have seen that, not in Middle East, I've seen that in USA, right? Believe me. So it's everywhere. And that's not a problem between one leader and one person, but it creates a bad environment, because most of the time you look upward at the leaders and take their behavior as a benchmark. as role models, those people. So they are not really creating problem for their own relationship, but also really activating and generating a very bad environment for the organization. In some organization, or maybe in your current organization, you will see there are functional silos, which means that you are working in finance and accounting, and you are very comfortable within finance and accounting. But if you deal with someone in the marketing or sales or HR or other department, you don't feel comfortable because they really don't respect you or don't respect your function. Similarly, you think that those people are not competent, for example. So what happens that if there is not enough recognition and respect for each other, the organization becomes functionally operating in silos, which means that all those people are comfortable within their own function, but they don't want to deal people in other functions because they may not appreciate their problems, their challenges, they may not respect their capabilities professionally. It's also a very common situation. Also, if you hear too much gossip, everybody has very spicy conversation in the kitchen or in the parking lots or in the hallways, something is seriously wrong over there. Because gossip and rumors only happen when there is lack of critical information. You think that the CEO is going to be retired in the next few months and no announcement has been made for the successor. Of course, the gossip has to be created, rumors have to be there. So good organization, what do they do? They realize and they understand the needs of the information for employees, what they need to know. Now, it may not be your direct concern that who would succeed your CEO, but it's something very interesting to you and you are naturally interested into it. So good organization try to create that information in a timely manner, in a proper manner, so there is no possibility or potential of gossip or rumors. But if there is a lot of gossiping happening, a lot of rumors are happening, something is wrong seriously with the organization. And also part of the culture of the company is lack of tolerance for differences. So I have seen, and you must have seen, that there are a cross-functional meeting going on, and there are people, powerful people from the different functions or different responsibilities, and they are literally attacking each other. They are attacking each other as if they are fighting for something personal. And those fights really do not start and finish in the same meeting. It goes much longer. The basic issue is that there is a lack of tolerance. I mean, why we work in organization or how the organization works. It is expected that you would have conflict. When so many people are there in the work environment, you don't make decision entirely solely yourself. You have a team, you have other people who are part of that decision-making process, and you discuss, and it is not at the time that you all agree immediately. There are some differences, there are some conflicts. Conflicts are good for the organizational decision-making to a certain extent. But if it goes too far, then it started to hurt the organization. So in organization who do not have the right culture, there is no tolerance for the differences at all. And people with the small differences started to fight very fiercely. Some people think that it is their entitlement that if I'm the marketing manager or chief marketing officer, and if I make a marketing decision, everyone else in the organization should accept it. That's a wrong thinking. As I said, that the CFO may disagree with the CMO or marketing manager based on the financial analysis or something he knows better. And good decisions are always based on the joint decision making. So if you see there is so many fights going on, something is wrong with the organization. And then if you see that there is a culture of missing deadlines, sales is being missed, the cost-cutting targets are not being met, the reporting deadlines are being met, the projects are being delayed, that's an outcome of a lot of problems in the organization. It's not that one or two things are missed, but it's a culture of the organization which is leading into the missed deadlines for a lot of projects and a lot of other things. So that's basically an outcome of all the problems. So if you look back at your current organization or to your previous organization, you will find a lot of reasons already there. And as I said, that there is hardly any organization which may not have any of these symptoms, which means that it's a reality that you will have some office politics everywhere, and some organizations have more of it, some organizations have less of it. So let me check the question box quickly, if there is anything I need to pick it up. So let me read it. It's from Imran. Two employees, say A and B, are in the organizational for 5 years. Both are doing the same level of job and have same level of responsibility. The quality matrix output of both are also similar. A got 2 promotions during 5 years, whereas B got none. What is the best option for B for career progression? Look, there are a lot of reasons for this. I mean, these are not simple situations to really understand or explain. These type of decisions are based on a lot of inputs, formal, informal, good, bad. There may be good reasons, formal reasons in the organization to make those decisions. There may be informal or political decisions. The thing is, if you are that employee, you feel that you are a victim because you are not promoted, you need to look first, analyze the situation, that what you did not do or what has happened in your case which did not result in the promotions. Of course, if there is only one senior position, only one would go. So depending upon the organization culture and organization practices, there may be genuine reasons you may not be aware, and there may be political reasons that it happened. Now, many times what happens that even if there is no politics, generally we feel that we deserve more than what we really are capable of. It's general, very natural thinking. I think there was a survey I read that 79% of executives think that they are better than average. Now, this could not be statistically true. 79% people feel that they are above average. So there is a natural tendency. So you need to also, in this situation where you are really reaching to a threshold where you are questioning that whether should I stay with the company or not, you need to analyze both from your own personal point of view as well as from others' point of view and reach to the reality. Of course, if there is discrimination, if there is politics, if you are not getting what you deserve, of course you need to make a tough decision, but be careful, because many times it may be our own internal thinking, our emotions, that we feel that we are being victimized or not getting what we deserve. So just be careful. There is one more question. Let me take this. I have observed some very senior people don't respond immediately to issues or maintain radio silence for long times. Is that a good political strategy to diffuse differences? Is it good strategy? I don't think it's a good strategy, but many people do because of the organizational reasons or because of the political reasons, as I said earlier. Organizational reasons may be that this type of information or the piece of information they don't want to discuss at the lower level in the organization, or this is something not related to their work. For personal reason, they don't want to discuss this. Or there may be political reasons by discussing this to you. For example, let's take a situation. You are a leader, you are a senior manager, and you have 10, 12 people working for you. There is one position, you have to promote one of the person to that position, just one position, right? And you look at the performance appraisal, you make some mind yourself, then you discuss with HR, and then you discuss with boss. And after discussing and consulting with these relevant parties, you decide to reach to a certain decision, right? Now, the potential candidates, there are 3. And all 3 of them are asking you that what is the decision and when it is coming. Now, although you may know that who is going to be promoted, it's not appropriate for you to start discussing with them. So you would remain silent, right? Like, I'm just trying to give you an example that when you put yourself into the shoes of a senior manager, you will find legitimate reason for not really opening up on the questions or really answering those type of information for the bigger sake of the organizational formalities. So always think a little bit broadly. What happens that in these cases, there is a high tendency to develop a victim feeling or victim thinking that I'm being victimized. People are wrong, people are politicizing, and I'm being affected by that. So it could be true to a great extent, but just be careful. Just try to think out of indifferently, and try to look and analyze the situation on a broader level. I'll get back to more specific strategies for you to deal in this situation. So far we have been talking about the science of office politics. So I think all of you are matured enough to understand what office politics is, but now with this criteria, you can look more closely. What is the level and intensity of politics? As I said, some organizations may be highly politicized, some may be less politicized. Usually, in international organizations, which operate in multiple regions and countries, usually there is less politics because they have a lot more standardized practices and policies. And even if something happens locally, it remains local. It does not spread too much in the larger organization. So what are your options to deal with office politics? So when you know clearly that yes, there is a lot of politics, and you are already there, by the way, you're stuck in that company. It's not really easy nowadays to switch jobs because of these reasons. So you have to be prepared to deal with office politics or these situations. So generally speaking, there are a couple of options for you. You can decide or you can take a position. The first position you can take is that I will avoid it completely. As I said, majority of the people are in this category. They're saying office politics is bad. I'm not that type of person. I will focus on my work and would not be part of it. So this is what they say. For example, I will avoid it completely. I hate office politics. I'm entirely focused on my work, right? And probably you are one of them because majority is part of that. This is the largest group of employees in any organization, largest group. So any organization, big or small, you will go and you will find more employees falling in this category, saying that is bad, I don't want to be part of it. But unfortunately, these are the people themselves who are exploited and misused by active players. Try to understand that if you are entirely focused on your work and not part of politics, you become a victim because you are an easy target for those people if you are not involved. Now, also depends upon your relative position in your career and in the organizational hierarchy. So if you are a young professional, you have recently started working for an organization, of course you don't have much political power. You are junior, you are fresh, you don't have much experience, you don't have much relationship, and you need to be focused on your work, right, to strengthen your position. This is okay approach. This is right for the initial phase of your career. Initial 4 or 5 years, you need to really focus on your work and not become part of politics. But as you started to grow in the organization, as you started to deal with more and more people, as you started to manage people for you, it becomes very important that you become politically a little bit active and smart. So, but this is an option. You consciously, formally or informally, you decide for your position. Second position for you to deal with office politics is that you become indifferent. So you would say that I know what's going on. I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I know what politics is going on. I know who is going to benefit and who is not going to benefit, but I would not involve in it, but I know how to protect myself, right? So this is a little better position, or I would say far better position than the first one, where you become completely passive. Here you are saying that, no, I'm politically smart, but I'm not actively playing it unless it hurts me, right? If it hurts me, I can protect myself very well. So these people, and you may be part of that category as well, they don't take sides. If there is a strong grouping, they don't become part of the groups. If there is some victimization going on, you know that there is a senior executive who is really exploiting a weak employee. So you know who is taking benefit, who is being victimized, but still you don't take sides. You observe it, you understand what game is going on, but you don't take sides because you think that it's not my business. And you only get involved when you are affected. When you get impacted, you become active and you try to protect yourself as much as possible. But as soon as your problem is resolved, you go back to that indifferent attitude. So this is another option or category people fit into. The third category to deal with the office politics is active players. Now these are the people who are usually most visible in the organization and highly vocal, because to become active, politically active, they have to really be visible. Otherwise, they won't be able to play their game. And they have to be highly vocal. Usually, they're also very senior and powerful and good workers, smart employees. So they have a good reputation. That is how they are able to play that game. There are three types of people in this category who falls. Number one are the amateurs. Amateurs are the people who want to play the game of politics, but really don't know how to play it, or maybe they are learning, or maybe they are new. So they are bad in politics. They try to play, but it fires back. And you clearly see that they are, rather than benefiting, they are getting hurt by their politics. Then there are experts. Experts are the people who know how to play politics, and they play it wisely, smartly, because they have an ambitious agenda. They want to grow faster, they want to grow quickly in their career, they want to grab more powerful position, they want to increase their salary. There is definitely very clear motivation for them to make personal benefit. That is why they want to do this game, experts. And finally, there is a category called masters. Now, masters are really the masters. These are the powerful players. Usually they are at the top of the hierarchy. So it may not be the CEO, but you see that in the executive management team, there are one or two people who do not look right, right? And they are very powerful, they are very senior, but they play their games very tactfully. And they like some employees, they don't like some employees, and they turn things in their favor. They go to the CEO, and CEO is really listening to them. They are the master players of politics. They are there for a long period of time. They are in a senior, powerful positions. So you could see three categories of people. Now, why it is important? Because once you decide that at least I would observe what is happening, and I want to protect myself, you need to understand who you are dealing with. So question here is that which position should you take? Should you become a evader, like none of your business, you would focus in your work? Just be careful, because you have more potential to become a victim, political victim, if you fall into that category. You want to be an active player, that's also not a good place. Your place is really in between, indifferent. Be politically smart, know what's going on, but don't play it actively. Just keep your eyes open, and wherever you see that you could protect yourself and protect someone else, by the way. Also, if you have that much political power to protect someone, then you should do it, but you should really play in between. And that's the best place as a general approach. But when you are in this position, and you know that you are dealing with who? You are dealing with an amateur, or you're dealing with expert, or you're dealing with master. Just be careful, because this is all very dangerous game. If you develop too much fight with someone at the master level, you may get hurt despite all these sincere intentions. That's all about politics, right? There is no rule than policies. You need to be careful. So let me now go to the more specific relationship, because what we are talking about, office politics, is not happen automatically. Office politics happens because of the people exist in the organization, good and bad, at different levels, with different views, different opinions. So let's see that who are the people who are closer to you, around you, and how you could really develop your relationship to become politically smart. But before I go there, let me just look at the question box. So there is a new question. Although my CFO considers me as way better than my peer, what could be the reason he does not interfere when I have heated email exchanges with my peer, well knowing that he is at fault for language and work related matters both? So I think the answer to this question, what I just explained to you, that consciously or subconsciously, everyone has decided their position politically, that they want to be looking different, or they want to take sides. Now, for a manager or for a leader who is managing a large department or function where a lot of senior people are there, it's very risky to take sides. So what happens in this case, that the leader or the senior manager or director or VP, whoever he is, they see that there is some friction going on between the two subordinates. They see that who is wrong, who is right, but they won't interfere in the anticipation that you will resolve your problem yourself. And this is what you should do. Because if you go too often to the common leader upward, that shows your weakness, that you cannot handle your problem. Now, conflict would always be there. There would always be differences. The good professionals or the good leaders are those who resolve their matters themselves. The weak ones, the weaker ones, they run to the CEO all the time, complaining other people, right? And that doesn't help them, because that create a weak brand for them, that they could not solve their problem. CEO does not like people running into his office with problems. No boss, no manager would like his subordinates to come to them and complain about the other subordinates, because that person has the ownership. So I think in this case, what you should do, you should really not depend on your leader or manager more, and try to resolve the issues yourself, whether it's within the department or outside the department. That would show your strength and your maturity and your brand. So let's talk about your relationship with the boss. Now, boss is probably the most important person at your work. The relationship with boss is very, very critical. And if you don't have that mindset and develop that mindset, the boss is the person who is most important for you in the organization. And there are also 3 types of relationship or positions you could decide for yourself with the boss. One position is that you say, okay, I report to this person. You're not talking about good or bad, but I'm here for a certain function, certain level of responsibility, and I would completely focus on my work and my performance and impress everyone. So my boss would be very happy when I do a good work. But other than that, I'm not involved who is doing what relationship, good or bad. If I do good work, my boss would like me and I would already have a good relationship. That's first category, right? Again, very sincere, honest, dedicated, hardworking employees. Second category could be that, look, I know what work I have to do and how that work really help my boss. But it's also very important that I communicate with my boss about all the good work I'm doing. Because if I do all the good work in my office or in my cubicle and my boss doesn't know about it, I'm not going to get reward for it. I'm not going to get compensation for it or what I deserve. So I will ensure that not only I do good work, but I also keep communicating with my boss and ensure that he understands what am I doing, right? That's the second category. The third category of people is, call them minions or pets. They will say, okay, I'm smart. I would not do all the good work. I would do minimal work, save my time and energy, but I will keep updated my boss in a manner that he would always be happy with me, right? These are the minions or pets. And somehow, boss also started to like those people because they are so good in flattering or praising their bosses. Look, this is a very common human weakness. Nobody hates flattering. Now you may say this is not right, this is wrong, but inside us, we all like it. When someone really praises us, we like it. We are weak in that part. So minions or pets, they are smart and they know how to do it. They will say, why should I do all the hard work? I could, if I have to make my boss happy, I could do it with less work. And that's what they choose, right? So 3 categories: very honest, dedicated, hardworking employees. Then shrewd, clever employees won't do all the work but take all the credit and somehow keep in good books of their bosses. And then there are in between a balanced approach that, yes, do the good work, but keep communication up. That is where you should be, in between. Not in the first category, not in the third category, but in the middle. And I have emphasized already in sessions of relationship and branding that you must ensure that other people know what you are doing. Otherwise, they don't know how good you are. You call it personal marketing or personal selling. It is critically important for your career development that people know what you are good at, what you could bring to the table. And that only happens through communication. Now, I'm not saying that all the good work, if you are in the first category and you're doing all the good work, that all wasted. No. That also could give you some good credit, but it would not give you all the credit you deserve if you just rely on the good work to speak itself. You need to really do it a little bit more actively. So what you need to do, Also spend some time understanding the personality and expectation of the boss. As I said, it's the human nature that we like flattering or being praised. Now, depending upon the environment, uh, maybe you join a new company, right? And you meet the boss and you see a lot of pets around him, a lot of blue-eyed people who are really praising him, flattering him, and has been happening for a long time, very successfully. The boss in this case is really spoiled already. Now, if you become the odd one out, and you don't want to do that flattering or praises, you are at risk, because boss would see you as a shortcoming, as something negative in your profile. So you need to ensure that what is the personality type of your boss. And of course, if you find that that's a situation everybody is praising and boss is very happy with the praise, you're not at the right place. It would be very, very challenging for you to really distinguish yourself as a separate professional person who does not do any flattering or praise. And I'll show you how to really assess the organization before you get into that situation, which means that if you are moving to a new organization, you need to ensure who are those people, what is the culture of the company, who are the people, who is your boss, what they expect other than work, and then make a conscious decision. So, but in any normal situation, it's very much possible that you would always find some minions or pets around your boss, and there are other people who are in the first category. So if you find too many minions, too many pets around your boss, then first of all, don't think that you are competing with them and you need to be like them. If you are really already stuck in that situation, then just try to differentiate yourself that you're not minion, you're a professional, you're not competing with them, and leave them alone. Only you need to work on your boss to convert him a little bit that, look, what you are doing is more professional, and as you do proactive communication with them, it should be okay. Now, and never burn your bridge, by the way. No matter how wrong, how bad the boss is, never ever burn your bridge. The only time you think of burning your bridge is when you decide to leave the organization. Then you can burn your bridge. It's fine at that time. But if you have not decided to, if you want to continue with the company, never ever burn your bridge. It is also possible that in some situations, you have a boss who is obnoxious, really very bad, and maybe it's a new manager who has been transferred to your department, or you have been moved to another department, or it is already there, whatever. It's also very common to have obnoxious bosses. How to deal with them? Usually they are very powerful, because if they are simply obnoxious and not efficient, not powerful, not good employee, they would have already been fired long time ago, right? The only reason, and many people get shocked and surprised with this reality, that look, that person is such a bad manager, that leader, I wonder how is he really surviving in the organization, why the company is keeping him, right? Well, the companies or the employer or the board of directors or the CEO are not stupid. They know all these things, but they are keeping that person for a reason, because that person is definitely doing something more good for the company. He may be more efficient, maybe he's bringing a lot of business from outside, maybe he is providing some very useful information. There is something for that person which is compensating for the annoying behavior. That is where that person is. So your first approach is accept them as they are. Don't try to fix them, because that's not your problem. That's the problem of the boss to fix them. If they see something wrong, they will fix them. It's not your issue as a subordinate. Or board of director will fix that person, or CEO will fix that person. That's not your issue. You need to accept them. You cannot change them, by the way. You also cannot change them. You could influence them a little bit, but you cannot change them. So that should not be your focus. Accept it. Okay, this is a nuisance, but I have to live with it. That should be your approach, number one. Number two, you must control your urge to reciprocate their behavior. It's very natural, by the way. It's not your fault. If you do that, not your fault. It's very natural. If someone misbehaves us, we naturally want to misbehave that person, right? But in a work environment, corporate environment, it's unfortunate that you end up in this situation, but this is not the right approach, because it's only going to hurt you. So must avoid forcefully, intentionally, not to reciprocate, because that's not you. If your boss has an abusive behavior, you're not that type of person. You don't do abusive languages, right? So try to keep a professional profile as much as you can. What you could do, keep your interactions with that person at minimum. Don't try, because every time you meet that person and that person is abusive, misbehaving, you get hurt, you lose your energy, you lose your emotions, right? So try to minimize those interactions, and whatever the interactions you have to do it at a very professional levels. So you want to keep your personal brand intact with that person. That's your test of your professionalism. In fact, you could go one step further and try to think in your mind that they are themselves, they are victims of their own behavior. Now, the psychological reason for those people who are obnoxious or who are abusive is that they themselves have a high lack of security. They themselves are insecure, or they have some background problems in the past. So feel empathy for them, that they need help. All the abusive behavior they are doing, that's because of a reason. They need more attention, or they need to show they are more power. But try to understand them. If possible, try to develop an empathy, a soft attitude for them, and try to help them if you can. And as I said, even if they go to a level of abusive behavior, try to deal them in a perfectly normal way. Because what happens with typically with these people, that when they showing their abusive behavior and you react, that basically feed them further. They get more pumped up with those things, because the abusive behavior feed abusive behavior. So if you react in an abusive behavior to them, they become more abusive. So try to control and deal in a perfectly normal way, and don't show any discomfort, that as if you are not affected or impacted by their behavior. You are perfectly normal, you are strong, you are more confident, nothing wrong with you. That's the attitude you need to do. So these are the few pointers for you to deal if you end up with an obnoxious boss in any situation. Now finally, if nothing works in your case, there are two options for you. Either consider HR to get involved, which means you think that you are getting impacted too much, you are losing a lot of energy, you are being so much disturbed. Even outside work, you cannot stop thinking about it. It's impacting so much. Consider involving HR into it, because if you are in a good company with a good HR, they will take care of it. But be careful. In some organization, HR is really puppet. Maybe before they solve your problem, they will run to the boss, obnoxious boss, and tell them that this person is complaining about it. That would complicate the problem. So be smart. Just first make an assessment whether you have the right quality of HR or not. And if not, then the final option for you is to exit the organization, because you don't want to really burn yourself. I did it myself. At one point of time, I had such a bad boss that I said, look, even if I don't have a job, that's a lesser problem for me rather than having this person as my boss. And I left that job without having another job. Now, fortunately, I got another job within a month or so, but I intentionally decided to leave that person, leave that company, leave that job without having a job, realizing that this would be a lesser cost for me to be without a job than having this person. So make your conscious decision. You know it better for yourself. Let me get back to the question box again, because it's, as I said, it's very, very practical topic, and I want to keep it interactive as much as possible. Okay, my last boss was an obnoxious one, okay? I had allowed myself to avoid his comment and continue to focus my work. And after 1 year, when I found that he is not going to change it and I cannot bear, I left the organization. My question is, was there exactly, this is what I just said, that you try to minimize the damage. So in this situation, I mentioned it very clearly. You cannot fix the problem. You cannot solve it. You cannot change that person. You cannot replace that person. So you need to think of cutting your losses, minimizing your losses, minimizing the damage. That's what you do. So you minimize the damage by trying all these tips, and then you decide yourself whether you want to continue, whether you could continue with that situation, or it's too much. If it is too much, involve HR or leave the organization, or maybe you could sustain yourself. It's a personal decision for you, but this is the right path, this is the right approach to deal with such situation. How to deal with an uncooperative staff member. So now you, I hope you're not the obnoxious boss, but somehow this staff member who reports to you is not cooperating with you, right? It's also very common. It happens with me a few times. Now, what you need to do, no matter how bad it is, you are a manager, you are a leader, you are a role model. You should never reciprocate that behavior. Now, many times temptation for the manager is they start to ignore that person. They start not inviting that person in. They want to cut off, isolate that person. They want to not treat that person professionally. That's wrong. That's wrong. As long as that person is in the employment, you have all the obligation to give that person all the due respect with all the professionalism. So you should not really leave that any compromise on that part. Then what you should be your approach? First, try to engage them with open conversation. So try to ask them, understand them, what are their complaints, why they are not happy, why they don't like you, in your own matured, smart way, and try to solve the problem that way. Hopefully you should be able to open that, because many managers even don't try that. They look at the bad behavior and they start to give back bad behavior, which only complicates the issue. So first you should try, become a genuine benevolent leader and try to address their issues if you could solve them. But it's not a guarantee. In many cases, the person would not change the attitude or behavior. They would continue to behave the same way. So of course there is a limit. If you decide that you have already reached the limit and this is not working, then withdraw a little bit, take a step back and try to deal with them more formally. Again, don't stop your relationship, your communication, but try more formally rather than try to motivate them to do an open conversation. And started to document your communication. So if it is possible, don't do a lot of verbal oral conversation, try to do through emails. So now you are documenting, because it may end up to a situation where that person has to be fired. You cannot suck your energy for a long period of time with such a behavior, especially if they are your staff members. Now you could do that with your boss because you don't have a control, but here you have a control to keep them or not to keep them. So in the anticipation that they will improve their behavior, you start documenting the communication and also their performance. When you told them to do certain targets, to do certain work, and whether they did it or not, try to document it as much as possible, all in good faith again. And also use the performance review system of your company. Involve HR if it is really need to. And then you would be reached to a point where either they are improving or they are not improving. So let's say that you decided to give them 3 months or 6 months and you did everything and they are not really changing any sign of change behavior, then you have to make a tough decision to really let them go. And you have to involve HR, and HR have to really ensure that all legal formalities have been fulfilled in terms of documentation. But be careful with one thing, last pointer here. In some cases, it is very common that these people are also very smart, politically smart, and they basically develop a tussle with you as a manager, knowing that they have more support in the organization from other people. Informally, they have more support from other people who are more powerful. So they have political affiliation in the organization. Somehow they know CEO, and CEO really listens to that person or talk to them informally in the parking lot or hallway. There are other senior people who really support that person for some reason. If that is the situation, just try to be very careful, because in certain cases it might hurt you back, because if you take a tough decision and that person is really backbiting you by telling that you are a bad manager, and if that person has already a strong relationship, the other people, senior people, may not think positive about you. So just be careful. Try to carefully assess your political power versus that person. So originally you should do all those things which I mentioned, but this is a filter through which you should really check your decisions, that what you want to do with that person. If there is political affiliation for that person, that's not your problem again. It's a problem for the organization, that senior members of the organization have developed informal relationship beyond the formal authority of work, and that would definitely create problems. So you could sideline that person for the time being unless you find a solution. Okay, how to deal with bullies or work harassment. Now, this is a rather wider or broader topic, and there are different forms of this work harassment. Uh, Typical examples are that there are some, again, senior or powerful people, and they target some employees for whatever reason. They joke about them, they misbehave them, they use vulgar language, they make fun of them during the meeting. Those type of behaviors are basically uh, a bully behavior. Or there is workplace harassment. Now there is also common sexual harassment in different part of the region. In some region there are very strict rules. For example, when it comes to the USA, there are very strict rules about sexual harassment. I know that it's so very common in Asian part of the world, uh, Middle East, India, Pakistan, China, but there may not be that strict rules. Now, I'm sure you must have heard the scandal about the Uber CEO. Uber CEO was the founder of that company, and he was very powerful. He basically very passionate. He developed the whole business model and very successful. But then what happened in terms of the sexual harassment scandals? He did not do anything wrong himself, but he let it happen in the organization with some other senior executives. And finally, it became public. It came into the attention of a lot of authorities. And ultimately, that founder of the company, Uber, was fired from the company. Imagine, he was fired from his own company because of this. So it also depends upon the legal rules or the protection available. But many times there are behaviors which is difficult to fit into the legal boundaries, especially the bully behavior. So as I said, if there is someone in a senior role all the time making fun of you, really making jokes about you, criticizing you, that's a bully behavior, and that has to be controlled. Now, what you could do about it? So first of all, it's also very common. It's not based on certain cultures. It's present everywhere, every part of the world. It's present in America, it's present in Brazil, it's present in India and Pakistan, Middle East, it's present in China. It's individual behavior of people. Some people have the tendency, some people have the characteristic of enjoying that behavior themselves. Why bully do bullying? Because they enjoy it. So it's a fact of life, and it drives more politics. When other people see that those senior level people or powerful people are really misbehaving with you, they also started to misbehave with you. They'll start to make fun of you. So it really become non-stop. Now, what is harassment or this bully behavior is basically repeated again and again, mistreatment of a person by humiliation or intimidation. That's very clear. So anything which fits into this category. Now, as I said earlier, that it's very difficult to fit into the legal boundaries, what is right, what is wrong. But lately there has been a lot of awareness, especially in the HR function, about avoiding this work harassment or bully. So you may have this problem directly from your boss, and you cannot complain to your boss. So again, depending upon the intensity of the problem, you may decide to go to HR. Again, first assess whether HR is a puppet or HR is a real professional HR. And if this is a genuine situation, they might help you. But be careful. These are very sensitive issues. So, but there is no point that you keep suffering from this mistreatment of certain people in your organization. The reason it happens, it's either lack of management control or management itself is supporting. As I said, that in the case of Uber, it looked like it was both things. I would say more the lack of control. So they saw this, but they did not take any action or control to control this. Maybe thought this is not that serious. In some cases, for example, one company I worked for a short period of time, the CEO himself was a bully. CEO of that Fortune 500 company was a bully. He would use abusive languages. He would criticize openly everyone on their face, and everyone was uncomfortable with that person. Now, where do you go? So for me, for example, that I was not directly reporting to him, but for me the option was to leave the organization. So I leave the organization within a year. So you need to see whether management is involved into it, whether management is the lack of management control or support of management. That is why it is happening. Now, what you could do, there is not much, but what you could do, keep your self-confidence. The bullies themselves are the people who are severely insecure or jealous. If it is someone at your level, they are usually jealous with your success or your position or your role. Or if they are senior or manager, they may be very insecure about their authority. So they have to really demonstrate that power and authority by being abusive, by using abusive behavior. You need to keep your self-confidence, which is very important, because the first thing which happens as a victim of being bullied, you lose your confidence and it started to impact your performance. So reframe the situation, develop a fresh mindset. Don't react. There is nothing wrong with you. If there is a bully behavior, there is workplace harassment, nothing wrong with you. It's about them, not you. Something problem with them, with the people who are doing it, not with you. So reframe it and don't react. That would not solve, because when you react, showing your weakness or your reactive behavior, that further encourages them to do more bullying. Now, what you need to do, another trick is that when they do communication with you, if they're involved through work, of course there would be conversations, many conversations. And what do? They use the work-related conversations to abuse you, to misbehave you, to criticize you. So what you need to do, you need to develop an approach that, okay, when those conversations, I would only listen to the conversation or words related to work contents, and I would disregard everything else. So if they are talking to you, listen what is related to work and completely disregard all the abusive language, all the criticism, all the other things which are not part of the work-related things. That is, if you develop that filter, that would significantly help you to keep intact, keep your confidence. And again, if it goes beyond your limit, when you start thinking that it's going too much, you are being impacted, you are losing your comfort, and you are not able to really focus and concentrate on your work, involve HR if you can, with the same cautious advice I gave you, or leave the organization. So these are the two final steps you need to take as a last step, last measure. When nothing works, then consider doing these two things. How to deal with, so this is also very common, especially in Middle East region. Most of you are from Middle East region, and this is very common to have political groups in the organization, or I would call them gangs, because they really operate like gangs. And the characteristic of these groups is, these are the people who have similar interest and similar background. Many times they are coming from the same ethnic background, from country of origin, or from certain regions, or certain caste, and they create and form groups for mutual benefit. So they want to support each other for their personal benefit at the cost of others. So if, for example, you deserve a promotion, they will try to snatch that promotion from you and give it to someone incapable within the group. And not only one person, they create a group to provide collective support. So their purpose to form into a group is to develop political power, because when they are, now first of all, this is all informal. There are no formal organizational groups like that, right? There is no recognition. Companies does not recognize, but they exist in the organization. You see it very clearly. Everybody else see that, and everybody else see that they gain a political power by getting together, by supporting each other. They gain political power. So much so that even sometimes leadership and management is helpless or weak in front of them. So how do you deal with that? And I hear all the time many complaints from people that there is this and that group. They don't let you progress or promote or really do some good work in the organization, and you're completely helpless. First of all, you should not get intimidated with these groups. Although I appreciate that you recognize them, you know them, you understand their purpose, but when you deal with them, deal normally, as if they are normal people. Because if you withdraw, you treat them differently, they already treating you differently, that's not a good thing. So you try, as much as possible, you try to behave and deal with them normally. Now, what you could do, establish trustworthy relationship with the people who are more power in the group. So it could be individuals in the group that you develop one-on-one relationship. That is how you create an acceptability for you into the group. Now, you don't want to be part of that group because that group may have certain characteristic which you don't have. And even if you have that characteristic, becoming part of that group would not be good for you. It would be good for temporary time, but not in the long term. So you only try to develop good relations individually with individual members, or better, if there are implied leaders, there are people who are more powerful within that group, the so-called leaders. Try to develop a relationship with them, and they will try to reciprocate the same behavior with you, which means that even if the group level they are doing some politics, they will ensure that you are not getting impacted by that. So you don't solve that problem completely, but you soften it for you. You make it a little bit easier for you. And whenever you could demonstrate that you support them or support some of their members, then they will help you whenever possible. Never try to be part of an anti-group. So there are two groups, and they push you that either become part of us or part of them. Never ever take that position. Try to keep yourself neutral. Never even if you feel insecure, to safeguard yourself, you want to become part of the other group, that may not help you. Don't become part of the anti-group, that would more distance you. So it's always advisable to establish your own professional personal brand and create your own image and character and brand, so people could respect you as an individual, not as a part of any groups. Okay, finally, there is something which is also very common, and I call them hijackers. Who are hijackers? Hijackers are the people, you do all the good work and they take all the credit, right? Sound familiar? And many times it is your boss that you are doing all the good work and he's taking all the good credit. What do? You get frustrated, right? It's very frustrating and disappointing. And you can't do much because those people are more powerful and senior. So what you could do in this case, whenever you see that you are doing something important, something valuable, and you could create some results, try to make the project or the work as visible as possible, not only to your boss, because the mistake people do, I'm working on a project, boss has given me, and I'm doing a lot of work, and I report to my boss only. I tell every day my boss what am I doing, right? Nobody else knows about it. Now, you're basically empowering boss to go to his boss and tell that he has basically completed this project, he has done all the good work. And he could say that very easily because you are part of his responsibility. So he could manipulate very easily, right? Solution is that if you are working on something very important, then try to make it visible, try to involve other people, try to publish it. Publish means that at least make other people aware that what are you doing. So especially the people who are related to that project. So when final results are delivered, people know that you were behind that project, not the boss. And in certain cases, the obnoxious boss may try to keep you out from the meetings and other people when they talk about the project. They will say, okay, I'll take care of this project in the meeting, you don't need to go there. No, please ensure that in those meetings where there are other members of the project available and they want to talk about the project, you must go there. Push it, insist it, and try to do your best to participate in those meetings. And in those meetings, speak up. Not only sit idle, speak up. Let the people know that you are doing what work you are doing, so that boss could not take advantage of that. And also, if you see these are important projects, ask your boss to include in the quarterly performance appraisal, quarterly or annual. So that way is documented that is your performance, and if you do a good work, you get good reward of it, right? And finally, if you think it is really happening again and again and not really being resolved, then decide to take this issue directly with your boss or credit snatcher, whoever that is. If you think you could do that, which means again, be careful that if they are politically very powerful, it may fire back because they would make you more in trouble. But if you think you have a relationship, you could take it up with them professionally, take it up with them and ask them that, look, I'm doing all the work and I'm not getting any credit. Again, you know in what language you have to take it up. But this is also an option for you to take it up with the person who is really taking all the credit for. So I gave you a lot of practical tips. Now realize that nothing in this case is a perfect solution, because in political situation, These are all informal. These are all implied situation. There are no rules, policies. People are playing based on their own political power. So there is no black and white thing to really tell what is right, what is wrong. That's the main limitation. And you don't have any formal authority to deal with this. So what you could do in these cases using these practical tips is to minimize the damage for you, cutting your losses. That's what you could do, and see what happens in the long term. If you're a CEO, it's a different ball game. As a CEO, you could solve that problem. You could fix the problem, because you could, in due course of time, you could change the culture of the company and change the politics. But if you are a mid-level or somewhere close to the mid and senior level, you could do something, but not you could solve the complete problems, right? So these are the guidelines. Let me look finally at the question box, if you could answer some of your practical issues. So if other members politically strong spread negative news about others to boss, how to avoid them doing this? Look, you cannot avoid that. People will do that. If they are doing it for you, like spreading bad name about you, bad reputation, you could only counter with your good reputation, what you have done. And this is what we talked in the personal branding session, that you should try to create such a strong brand that if someone spread the bad news about you, people doubt it. People will doubt that, no, I don't think that person could do that. So the best way is really not to stop them, because you cannot stop them, but to really protect yourself by creating even a stronger positive reputation about you. Okay, there is another question. Situation, the relations between those financial areas could face problem. How to deal with this once at the end of the day all of them respond to same person, CFO? I'm not sure what question it is. Let me pick another one. We haven't been sharing any new books lately, especially on the topic for us to read. I liked all the books you referred so far. So, Kiran Kumar, the reason is I did not share book, especially on office politics. I couldn't find a good book so far. I mean, there are some books, but they are not really very practical. So, what I try to do, I try to make it as relevant and as practical as possible for you, doing all of my research I do based on all of my knowledge and experience. And if there is some additional reading, good reading available, I recommend to you. But if I don't find that really it would help you or give you a lot of value, then I don't do that. And I'm not sure with other subjects you are talking about, but office politics, I couldn't find a good book. I think this is a lot more practical subject, and I've already given you enough practical tips. And also last session we talked about framework. So now you should be in a position to understand what are the frameworks, how does it work in an organization for people and groups and organizations, and what you could do about it yourself. And next session we will still continue to talk about this topic, and I would expect please send me a few case studies about you, whether you want to attach your name or not, so we could really look at some real situations and analyze them and really identify the solutions. And I'm sure the environment in which you are working, there must be a lot of issues and challenges. Okay. So this question from Wellington, I still could not understand. So, okay, sometimes I was missing the first line. Sometimes companies have different financial areas for commercial, supply chain, and corporate, as example. Due to the different behaviors and because of political situation, the relations between those financial areas could face problems. How to deal with this once the end of the day all of them report to the same CFO? Okay, now I get it. I think I already partially responded this question before, that if there are differences, for example, in different parts of the financial organization, and all of you report to the same boss, same CFO, differences are fine. There would always be conflict and differences, but you should try to deal with those differences yourself. If you look up at CFO to solve all those differences, it's not a good situation for you, not good situation for CFO. And CFO, Put yourself into the shoes of the CFO. CFO would never like people from different sections of the department to come to him for solving the problem. He wants you to solve your own problem. So it's mainly, I think, could be a result of a culture. If there is a culture of mistrust, you would always run towards the top to get it resolved. If there is transparency, there is trust, there is professionalism, you will deal directly with your counterpart and try to solve it at your level, which should be the ideal case. Okay, so I think I answered that, and I think I also answered other questions. Okay, so I think we covered this topic a little bit more deeply from a practical point of view. Now you guys have a lot of material to look into, and I know that this is one of the major area of challenges for many professionals. So look at your situation, and my strong advice, send me through email or send to Sabah your situation or your case studies or your challenges and issues, and probably we could discuss also from a more practical point of view in the next session as well. So ultimately with this 3 session, you would be quite empowered to deal with these situations currently and future in your career. So thank you very much all for attending, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye now.